Over a year ago, I made a video on this channel where I swapped from chess.com to Lichess for 30 days and told you guys all of the little things I found. It's actually one of the biggest videos on my channel, sitting at around 200,000 views. And since that video, I've spent the majority of my time playing chess on Lichess. So now I can do the sequel to that video where I spend 365 days playing on Lichess and tell you guys what I found. In today's video, we're going to be looking back at that video, seeing all of my opinions, and telling you guys how my opinions have changed over the last year. Before we do start though, today's video and others like it absolutely would not be possible without our sponsor, ChessMind.ai. Most courses obsess over memorizing hundreds of opening lines, but ChessMind is built around something different, understanding positions and not just remembering moves. The goal isn't just to know theory, it's to know what to do when theory runs out. That's why the courses on ChessMind only take around an hour to complete, because the priority isn't on memorization, it's positional understanding. For just $7 per month, you can unlock over 50 courses on ChessMind, plus access to their AI coach, personalized puzzles, and training videos hosted by Chilean Grandmaster Maurizio Flores. And with the link in the description, you guys can get 20% off your purchase too. So without further ado, let's get into that video. There is one problem with Lichess's pre-moves though, and in my opinion, it makes chess.com's system a lot better. Internet connection. At any given time on Lichess, I have a minimum of 300 ms. This means that information Lichess relays to my computer will take exactly 0.3 seconds, and vice versa me to Lichess's servers. This doesn't mean that pre-moving a mate in 7 with 0.6 seconds on your clock is impossible, but it does rely on your opponent taking more than 0.3 seconds on each move they make, so the information can be relayed on their clock and not yours. In the circumstances that it would matter, your opponent is probably going to be trying to flag you. And if they pre-move at all themselves, it essentially renders your 0-second pre-moves useless if you don't have a great internet connection. I have absolutely no idea why I spent so long talking about this in this video. I spent like 3 minutes talking about the pre-moves on Lichess and chess.com. There's basically no difference. Like, maybe from an outsider perspective, if you haven't played on Lichess for a while, you could imagine that, only being able to have one pre-move at a time, at the end of the game, when you're low on time, you can't do your ladder checkmate all in one. Sure, it doesn't really matter. It's very easy. I guess it's an acquired skill learning the pre-moves on a different platform, but realistically, once you have learned the skill of doing pre-moves individually, there is no difference. Neither platform is going to suffer from having different pre-moves. There's basically all of the pros and cons kind of balance out across both platforms. So it's not really a reason to criticize Lichess at all. And I generally think that the pre-moves are just as good as each other. Pairings. The pairings on both chess.com and Lichess, I would say, are just about as good as each other. They both have rating range filters, and although it would be nice to have another filter like account creation date, none of them have it, so they would both score the same. Although chess.com has a much larger player base, it's not really felt as far as pairings go on Lichess. One criticism I have as far as chess.com goes is that players at the upper end of the pool feel very inconsistent in strength. Lichess, on the other hand, feels much more accurate. Of course, chess.com uses Glicko 1 and Lichess uses Glicko 2, which for all purposes of this video, I don't feel makes a massive difference. However, a 2300 player and a 2200 player on chess.com feel identical in playing strength to me. In the same sentence, on Lichess, I feel that there are clear differences between these two elo brackets. 2300s are much more solid and hard to break down, whilst 2200s are still solid but are more prone to mistakes. This isn't to say that Lichess doesn't have inflated or deflated ratings, but generally, when the dust settles and a player has played enough games on their account, I feel that their rating accurately reflects their strength. This is something that I find isn't always the case on chess.com. I believe that this is because of one very obvious problem on chess.com. The cheaters. Extremely solid players lose elo to these cheaters and end up in a lower elo bracket they simply don't belong in. This causes an extremely unusual imbalance of playing strength in the 21, 22, and 2300s of the pool. Okay, so I uploaded a video on this channel recently about my experiences with cheating in the year 2026 as compared to when this video was made, which was around 2024 or 5. The cheating problem is essentially gone on both platforms. At least at my level, it's not gone completely, but it's gone to a level where you can play chess and not really feel like your opponents are cheating all the time. Every now and then you will verse a cheater, but generally it's a lot rarer than it used to be. And with all of that dust being settled, players just feel the same on both platforms. You'll get pairings equally as fast on both platforms, and the players will feel the strength that they actually are. The only problem that I do have is that I feel that a lot of chess.com players are smurfing. So, you'll get these like 2,500 bullet players that make a second account, and now they're suddenly 2,100 rapid, and they're trying to build their rapid up on a lower rated account. That's a big problem on chess.com. I think that is definitely felt. It's not felt so much on Lichess, I don't think. Of course, alt accounts are against the terms of service of both websites, so really it's not allowed, but chess.com haven't really addressed that problem in a good way, and I feel like it doesn't happen so much on Lichess. So I think that's the only difference between the pairings on both platforms. One thing I will say is no website has introduced pairing filters that allow you to pair or stop pairing players with new accounts. That doesn't really matter so much anymore because the cheating problem is largely gone, but filters like that would be a welcome feature for both websites.
Arenas. Whether you play in them or not, arenas are a huge part of the gameplay on any chess website, making them easily the second most popular form of matchmaking aside from the normal pool. The customization for arenas on chess.com and Lichess is great. They have every feature you need, along with gameplay and entry option. Another thing that Lichess has that chess.com doesn't is the ability to change arena presets during the waiting period for the arena to start. For example, if the time control is 3+0 and a countdown for the start of the arena has already begun, but you accidentally made it rated when you didn't want to, you can change that. However, on chess.com, you would need to cancel the arena entirely, make a new one and make it unrated, and then have everyone join all over again. Another frustrating thing about chess.com is that you cannot physically remove someone from an arena even if you are the club admin that the arena is being hosted by. So for example, if you are playing in an arena and somebody else is blatantly cheating in that arena, you can kick them from the club, but they are allowed to play out the remainder of the arena and there is absolutely no way to get rid of them. The only way to get rid of them is if chess.com actively bans their account during the arena. On Lichess, if you have created a team-only arena and somebody is cheating in it, kicking them from the team will kick them from the arena.
Nothing's changed since this video, which is crazy. It's been a long time. Let me see exactly how long actually. How many years? It's been 2 years since that video's gone up. Chess.com haven't changed anything. Any of the bad things about their arenas haven't been changed. Still, if you want to change one of the tournament presets, you have to cancel the tournament and restart it. And still, if someone's cheating in your tournament, so what? Just deal with it, right? That's the solution. What's really annoying about this is that literally 5 years ago and 2 years ago, Chess.com promised to their creators that they would change it, that they would change the tournaments and how they work, they would improve it, and they actually asked for our suggestions as well. I remember it being a big thing in the Chess.com partner Discord, and then we all gave our suggestions, we all told them how difficult it was to stream on Chess.com and do arenas because people would just cheat in them, and they did nothing. They promised they would and they didn't, which is super frustrating, and I think it's one of the main reasons that nobody streams chess.com anymore, or at least it's very dead on Twitch, a lot less popular than it used to be, because one of the main things that you would do on stream is have a tournament with your viewers, and if somebody comes along and cheats in every tournament you play in, not so fun. So Lichess definitely takes the W in this one. They've also got the Berserk feature, which I cut out. Berserk feature is very cool, chess.com doesn't have that, but I think overall, Lichess arenas are way better than chess.com's.
Overall, on the gameplay side of things, I think it's fairly even.
Why did I say that? I swear to God, I'm watching back the video now. In the video, I gave no reason as to why it should be even. It should obviously be better on Lichess, because Lichess has the better tournaments, and they have more miscellaneous features, which I cut out of this video because it's kind of boring. It's just a bunch of random features that you probably never use. Voice activation, have you ever used that? Probably not, but it's a cool feature that chess.com doesn't have. For gameplay, Lichess is obviously better. If their tournaments are better and everything else is the same, then Lichess is better. So that would be my reflection a year on after this video. I probably could have made that point a year ago, considering I literally didn't have anything bad to say about Lichess in this video. But yeah, Lichess gameplay is definitely better.
Analysis. But first, let's look specifically at the analysis board.
Okay, to stop this video from being 2 hours long, I'll save you guys from looking at the section on the analysis boards, they're the same. It's just an analysis board, right? It's very difficult for one to be really innovative and one to not be. We'll get into game reviews later, but the analysis boards are exactly the same. Lichess has a little bit more because they've got open source. You can add your own engines and things like that, but generally, for the average use of the average player, analysis boards are exactly the same.
Game review. Lichess doesn't have a game review function beyond their initial analysis board, but in the case of chess.com, that's not necessarily a bad thing. First of all, chess.com's game review function and their analysis function work off two separate engines. So whilst the game review might tell you that you played the best move, you might have actually played the third best move in the position. However, if we're being critical, I really dislike the performance rating given in the game review. This is because it seems to be incredibly biased depending on the user's rating and ends up being very inaccurate. For example, here's a game I played in the pool versus a 2,292 rated player. My performance rating for this game was 2,450 and my opponent's was 2,150. However, if we put the blank PGN into a separate game review and disregard our starting ratings, it refuses to give us a performance rating anymore because it mainly relies on knowing the ratings of both players beforehand. The game review then combines the ratings with the move accuracy and gives you a number. It's important to note that this is not how performance ratings work over the board. In a real game, the rating of your opponent will be taken into account and the result of the game. The move accuracy is irrelevant. This allows for an accurate performance rating based on the players that you beat over a tournament. However, in a setting where you will only be paired against players your own strength, it would be incredibly boring if chess.com just said your performance rating was your current elo. So with this being said, chess.com massively boosts your performance rating by making the move accuracy matter. This gives you a completely unrealistic number that you are certainly not the strength of.
Every criticism that I had about chess.com in this section just still exists. The fact that you get inflated performance ratings for each of your games still exists. The fact that the evaluation, the engine, and the move symbols run off different engines, that still exists. So you might be playing the third top engine move, but it tells you it's the best move on one of the move symbols, still exists. So every criticism that I had in this section still stands about chess.com.
Study. Lichess's study feature is absolutely perfect in my opinion.
I mean, need I say more for this section? Lichess study feature is still amazing. They've hardly changed it since I made this video. I even made a mistake in that video where I thought that you couldn't permanently lock the orientation of the board in your study. You can. It's just a feature that I missed. What's more important though is that chess.com's version of the study, which is their classroom feature, is still really bad. It's terrible, in fact. It's unusable. I actually criticized it in this video. I'll spare you guys. You know, this video will end up being 15 minutes long if I keep showing old footage, but it's still bad. It's bad for all the same reasons. They haven't fixed any of the errors with it. You know, if you try to do it with a friend, I even had an episode of The Difference with Nusha Afshar, where we tried to use chess.com's classroom feature and it didn't work. It didn't let her move any of the pieces, didn't let her draw any arrows, and we had all of the settings properly configured. So there's just a million things wrong with it. It's so unusable, and Lichess's is just perfect. So I don't see any reason why you would use chess.com's feature over Lichess's.
Chess.com doesn't score badly here though.
This is like another example of why not? Like, I don't feel like I mentioned that much in the video that would suggest chess.com should score highly there. I mean, their analysis board was just the standard. Their classroom was terrible. The game review is terrible. I don't know how that's not badly. If I had to redo this, I think I ended up giving chess.com like a 7 here. Maybe it was a pity 7. I think back when I used to do YouTube, like back a couple of years ago, I was a big fat fence sitter, bro. I didn't like to be critical of things. I didn't want to upset people, but now I just don't care. I think if I had to do this again, and I actually did do it again, I'll leave a link. I did my brutally honest review of chess.com. You guys should watch that video if you haven't already. I think I gave them like a 5. So that would be, I would give them a 4 or 5 when it comes to analysis on chess.com. You know, no one's sitting at an over the board tournament and they're like, oh, let me put this game into my chess.com analysis board. No, everyone does it to Lichess. Everyone puts it in their Lichess study. You know, anyone that's really serious about getting better at chess, I think uses Lichess's analysis because it's just better. So yeah, I don't know why I even was nice to chess.com in this category. Lichess really is much better.
For me, chess.com gets an 8 out of 10, whilst Lichess gets a 9 out of 10.
Did I really say that? There's no way I gave them an 8. Oh my god, I'm like watching this, and then I'm recording a little bit, and then I'm watching the rest. This is my genuine reaction. I didn't even know I did that. What, 8? Oh my god, I actually can't believe it. I can't believe it. 8 and Lichess a 9, not even a 10 for Lichess. What could Lichess have done better? Oh my god, I actually hate myself.
Puzzles. There's a few main differences between puzzles on Lichess and chess.com.
What a stupid haircut, by the way. Who told me I could have that haircut? And how did I get a girlfriend with that haircut? That's ridiculous. It's completely unrelated to the video, but like, geez, you guys should just... Like, if there's something wrong with me now, please tell me so I can fix it. Don't make me wait 2 years so I can realize it with my frontal lobe developed.
The selection. Chess.com handpicks all of their puzzles. Some are taken from real games, and some are composed puzzles that have been uniquely created. Whilst this does ensure that every puzzle is useful, insightful, and of high quality, it also means that Chess.com has far less puzzles than Lichess. Lichess boasts up to 4 million unique puzzles on their platform, whilst Chess.com has somewhere in the region of 100,000. This is because Lichess uses an algorithm to make their puzzles. First, the algorithm chooses a game that was played on Lichess. Then, it finds an interesting position in the game where the player needs to find an interesting tactical or positional sequence to take the advantage. It then puts that position into its pool of puzzles, determines the difficulty of the puzzle by how many players solve it easily or have difficulty with it, and by repeating this process, Lichess has over 4 million puzzles in their pool.
So I stand by most things that I actually said in this video about puzzles. I think that Lichess puzzles are a lot better, but I kind of missed a bunch of things about them. First of all, Lichess has a bunch more puzzles because they get their puzzles from real games that are played on Lichess, and then they test them in the puzzle pool, see what people find difficult, they can attribute themes to them, and that's kind of the system. It's all automatically done. It has a really good algorithm, whereas Chess.com's is just one Chess.com staff looks at a position, kind of figures out a theme and puts it in the pool. So, a lot less efficient. But we can go here, which I actually didn't even mention in this video. You can go to puzzles and puzzle themes. First of all, Lichess's puzzle themes are a lot better, but you can also go to this, which chess.com really doesn't have. By openings, you can click more, and you can pick what opening you want to play. So let's say the Advanced French. If you want to play the Advanced French from the white side, you can see now we're getting puzzles with pawn structures that derive from the opening that we actually play. You can see there's a pawn on e5, which would occur in the Advanced French. It's a little bit of a complicated position, but this is much better than if we were playing like the King's Indian attack. If you're a King's Indian attack player, you're never going to get a position like this. What's the point of learning a tactic tactics are all about pattern recognition and, making sure that if this pops up in a real game, you're going to be able to solve it. But you're never going to be able to solve it because this is never going to come up in your game. So I think this is really important, and chess.com doesn't have this, and this alone is reason enough to play puzzles on Lichess as opposed to chess.com.
Both websites have great puzzle systems, and even though chess.com has a few flaws, they're only really noticeable if you're a lot higher rated. For puzzles, I'll give chess.com a 7 out of 10 and Lichess an 8 out of 10.
I did not get anywhere near enough hate for this video. 7 out of 10 and an 8 out of 10? Are we serious? What is so good about chess.com's puzzles? I think maybe I just didn't try out enough puzzles on different platforms other than these two, because there are multiple platforms out there that have much better puzzles than chess.com, because what they do is they have the bare minimum. The bare minimum should not be a 7. Again, I would kind of rate the puzzles like a 5 out of 10. Not to mention that a lot of puzzles in the chess.com pool are just incorrect. Like, they have multiple answers. That's, because they're put in manually. So if a chess.com staff member sees a puzzle and they want to put it into the pool, but the engine doesn't see that there's multiple solutions, it's going to go into the pool. Sometimes you get a game and then you put your move on the board and then the engine realizes that something is wrong because you don't have it on the right depth. That happens through chess.com staff members getting it wrong and then putting it into the pool. So there's a lot of wrong puzzles on chess.com as well, which I think, it can't be a 7 out of 10. So if I had to rate this again, I would say chess.com 5 or 6, and then Lichess 8 or 9. For puzzles. I think Lichess puzzles are just way better in every metric, and I don't think it's really a competition.
User interface. It is no secret that chess.com absolutely wipes the floor with Lichess when it comes to the UI and aesthetic customization.
I'm honestly going to save you guys the back end of this video where it's just me yapping about the UI for about 5 minutes, because it's a completely subjective thing, and I let it weigh in way too much into this video, where I do still stand by the fact that chess.com is a much prettier website. If we compare it to all of these different websites that are not related to chess, chess.com kind of meets that standard of the modern, the sleek, the simplistic, the kind of look that most websites want to go for because it's what works, right? Chess.com definitely takes the cake in that. But to say that Lichess is somehow an ugly website, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Everything is very clear on Lichess. Everything works. The UI is fine. It's also battling with the fact that they have a lot more complexity, a lot more buttons on Lichess, a lot more variety, which is obviously going to make it a little bit messier. But I think it does a great job of conveying all of the information that is available to you on Lichess. Whereas chess.com, a very simple website, is just broken in a lot of ways. Let me go to this screen really quickly. This is my bullet rating over the last 90 days. Apparently, 90 days ago, I was 0 elo, so their graphs aren't working. They haven't been working for the past 3 years. By the way, my rating on Lichess is 2300, and I'm kind of just recording content on my chess.com account, so don't laugh at me for being 1960 bullet, but, half of the things just don't work on this website. Half of the buttons don't work. Everything breaks all the time. Whereas on Lichess, I've really never had something break. You can see I'm just flexing my bullet rating right there. Nothing ever breaks on this website. Everything is very clear. And I don't know why I let it weigh into the overall kind of comparison between chess.com and Lichess so much. I guess when you're new to chess and you're a little bit naive and you see chess.com and you think it's this great website, you're probably more inclined to think that the one that you started on is the more attractive one and the other competitor is like the less aesthetic website. But you know what? I'm just gonna I gotta rip off the band-aid and show you guys what I rated the two platforms based on aesthetics, so I guess I'll just do that now.
For chess.com, I'm going to give what I feel is an extremely fair 10 out of 10. Lichess, on the other hand, is let down massively here, and I'll give them a 6 out of 10.
I actually have no idea what was wrong with me. That's such a terrible rating. Like, oh my god. I remember reading some of the comments, and they were like, how could you give that rating for the aesthetics of Lichess and chess.com? And I was like, what? I thought it was fair. I don't know how I genuinely thought that was a decent rating at the time. No, there were so many things wrong with chess.com's aesthetics. The UX is not very good. I would genuinely, if I had to rate them now, I would maybe even give it balanced. I would still probably... I don't know. It's so difficult because it's a subjective thing, of course. I think none of them are close to being perfect. I think, obviously, if anyone plays Lichess, half of the Lichess players have a browser extension anyway to make the website look better, and if you do that, you're admitting that the website is not perfect in terms of looks, which it's not. I don't have a browser extension for my Lichess. I just don't care about how it looks, so it's like not a big problem to me anymore. But I would say that what Lichess doesn't have in looks, it makes up for in the fact that the website actually works. So, you know what? I'll just give them both a 7 out of 10 and be done with it. Chess.com does not kind of walk Lichess in this category at all. I would say they're very similar, and it's not going to change your overall experience at all.
Overall, out of 40 points, chess.com scores a solid 32 out of 40, whilst Lichess scores a healthy 31 out of 40.
It's just such a bad rating. If I had to go back and rate it again, I would say maybe Lichess gets a 35 out of 40. I don't know why the metric was 40, but maybe 35, and then chess.com at best gets like a 25. I think that Lichess is so much better just across the board. There's not many things that chess.com... I don't think there's anything that chess.com is really better at. I guess the fact that I really do appreciate the fact that chess.com are so kind of... They push over the board chess, and they push the popularity of chess as well. I think without chess.com, chess would not be where it is today, and I think that's based off of the fact that chess.com is a business and not a charity. I do understand that, and I really like chess.com for that, but even now, like, Lichess having a partnership with Take is pushing chess, so they are kind of carrying their weight now. I think when I initially made this video, I was also a chess.com partner, which isn't like they didn't pay me for the video or anything. You're just a part of this like little imaginary group of people to make you feel important. And I think because of that, I was less inclined to be critical of chess.com. Now that I don't really stream and I don't really use any of the benefits that you get from being a chess.com partner, apart from I do have a speedrun account that I use from time to time, but apart from that, there's not really anything that I use from chess.com. And I think because of that, I was less inclined to be critical of the platform. But now, and I mean, yeah, I mentioned earlier, I made a very, very harsh review of chess.com. which I think I still agree with. It's pretty critical. I think I ended up giving them a 5 or 6 out of 10 as a website across the board. I also did one on Lichess as well, you guys. I'll link both of them in the description if you guys are curious of my individual kind of reviews of both platforms. But yeah, I don't know. I think that my opinion is very outdated. And also, 30 days on a platform is not quite enough to get a great grasp of what it is, especially when the websites are so complex in their own ways. Maybe for some websites that are more kind of focused on one thing, you can figure out exactly how good the website is in a short amount of time. But I think when it comes to chess.com and Lichess, you do have to play there for a little while to have a decent opinion on it, which I think I now have. I think that, now that a year or so has passed since I've been playing on Lichess, I think I have a much better kind of intuition of which website is better, and it so happens to be that Lichess is the much better website in my opinion. But I thought it would be a cool video to come back to. Considering it's one of the biggest on my channel, I think now it's the third biggest video on my channel, which is kind of crazy. It's also probably equally the third most hated video on my channel because of how bad my opinions were. But I mean, that's life. We all live and learn. We're all human at the end of the day. But I hope you all enjoyed today's video. It was a very fun one to record. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.